On a big country music night, under the blinding lights of the CMA Awards, a young woman from a town most people can't find on a map steps up to the microphone, a trophy shaking in her hands. The announcer has just said her name, Ella Langley. She's now a CMA winner. Her song has taken over country radio, and almost overnight, she's become one of the most important new voices in Nashville. But that's not where this story really starts. To understand how she got from Hope Hall, Alabama to CMA wins and sold-out tours, you have to go all the way back to a tiny Baptist church, to a grandpa who could play almost any instrument by ear, and to a little girl who grabbed the microphone at 3 years old and told her mom, "I got it. I know how to do it." And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll hear the full circle moment that might be the most emotional part of Ella's story. How, after the awards, the streaming numbers, and the tours, she came back home and did something for her family that says more than any trophy ever could. This is the journey from Hope Hole Port songs to CMA wins, the family story of Ella Langley. Let's start where almost every Ella Langley story begins, Hope Hall, Alabama. Hope Hall isn't Nashville. It's not Austin. It's not even a big city like Montgomery. It's a rural spot just outside Montgomery, a small southern community where fields, farms, and churches define the landscape. It's the kind of place where people know your parents, your grandparents, and probably your business too. When Ella tells people where she's from, she usually has to explain it by saying, "It's a small town outside of Montgomery," because if she just says Hope Hole, most folks respond with, "Where is that?" That small-town anonymity is exactly what shaped her. Ella grew up on a farm in Hope Hole, one of 4 siblings. She's the second oldest, 2 brothers, and a younger sister, all packed into a close, loud family. Her parents, Jason and Heather Langley, married in the late 90s and raised their kids with a mix of faith, hard work, and a lot of music. In their house, music wasn't some distant dream or a high-level career plan. It was just part of daily life. Her dad might have country or classic rock playing in the truck. Her mom might have 80s, folk, or alternative on in the car. And when the extended family got together, especially on her dad's side, music wasn't just background noise. It was the main event. Her grandparents on her father's side were extremely musical. Her grandpa could sit down at a piano and just play. No sheet music, no charts, just pure instinct. He could pick up different instruments and get a tune out of them by ear. Family gatherings often ended with everyone gathered around singing together. For a little kid like Ella, this wasn't just fun, it was normal. The idea that music comes out when family comes together was built into her from the beginning. That environment, a farm, a small town, a musical family, is the soil Ella grew out of. If there's one moment that shows you exactly who Ella is, it happens when she's only 3 years old. Picture a small southern church, wooden pews, hymnals, and sunlight coming through stained glass. The plan that day is simple. Her grandpa will sit at the piano, her mom will help hold the microphone, and little Ella will stand there and sing a hymn. It's supposed to be something cute and controlled, a safe little moment. But that's not what happens. Right before they start, this tiny 3-year-old reaches out, takes the microphone out of her mom's hand, and says, "I got it. I know how to do it." The whole church laughs, but she's serious. She sings. And in that moment, something clicks, for her and for everyone watching. She's not nervous. She's not hiding. She wants the mic. And years later, when she's standing on award show stages in front of millions of viewers, that same kid is still in there, the one who says, "Hand me the mic. I got it." Fast forward a few years, and the story turns in a more emotional direction. Ella's grandpa, the one who filled so much of her early world with music, passes away. It's a heavy moment for the family, a real loss. But from that grief comes something that quietly changes Ella's life. Her dad takes her grandfather's old guitar, has it restrung, and gives it to her. There isn't a big speech or some dramatic movie scene. It's simple. Here, this was his, now it's yours. That night, she goes to her room, picks up the guitar, and starts teaching herself how to play. She looks up chords online, struggles through them, and stubbornly refuses to put the guitar down. Before she goes to bed, she's learned how to play Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. A reggae song, learned by a country girl in a small bedroom in Hope Hull. It doesn't seem like a big deal from the outside, but it reveals something crucial about who she is. Someone gives her a tool, a microphone, a guitar, a shot, and she takes it home, works with it, and makes it hers. That pattern shows up again and again in her story. Church microphone, grandpa's guitar, publishing deals, major stages. Every time, she grabs the opportunity and grows into it. Growing up as the second oldest of four in that family also shaped her personality in a major way. Her older and younger brothers are rowdy, loud, and full of energy. There's roughhousing, competition, and constant pressure to keep up. Ella spends a big part of her childhood proving she's just as tough and fearless as they are. That's where the tomboy side of her comes from. Later in her career, she'll bottle that experience into her 2020 single, One of the Guys, a song that reflects what it feels like to be the girl in the middle of the boys, trying to keep pace and refusing to be treated as fragile. That willingness to stand her ground, to be gritty and direct, is a huge part of the stage persona fans recognize today. A lot of that toughness was born in the middle of that loud Alabama household. Before Ella became known as a country artist, she was also a serious performer in another arena, dance. She wasn't just doing it for fun, she was good. She became a two-time state champion dancer in Alabama. That experience taught her how to perform under pressure, how to own a stage, and how to connect with an audience using more than just her voice. Choreography, rhythm, timing, presence, those skills translate directly into the way she commands attention when she's singing. By 2016, while attending Hooper Academy, she decides to put singing into the spotlight. She signs up for the school talent show. Imagine that moment. Backstage, hearing the crowd murmur, feeling your heart pounding as you're about to walk out in front of your classmates and teachers, not as a dancer this time, but as a solo singer. It's her first big public performance where all the focus is on her voice. She steps onto the stage, sings, and doesn't fall apart. That performance is a turning point. After that, the idea of singing in front of people isn't a fantasy anymore. It's something she's actually done, and she wants more of it. Soon, she's playing at local venues, experimenting with set lists, and getting a feel for how it feels to sing in front of strangers in bars and community events. She's building the early version of the live performer her fans see now. Around 2017, a simple moment on the porch at home becomes one of the most important memories in her early songwriting life. She's sitting outside in Hope Hall, guitar in hand, messing around with a riff. It's the kind of thing that could easily stay as background noise, just another little melody she plays and forgets. But her aunt hears it. They start talking, and that rough riff turns into something more. Words begin to form. The idea turns into a song called Clear the Clouds. They co-write it together, Ella and her aunt. Proof that in her world, songwriting isn't some exclusive Nashville-only thing. It's a family activity, born on a porch in everyday life. They take Clear the Clouds to Guest House Studios in Elmore County, Alabama, and record it. A music video is made and released through a small independent production company. At the time, it's a local grassroots project. Years later, when Ella has a record deal and major releases, the old Clear the Clouds clip resurfaces online and starts to go viral. People are shocked at how far she's come since that early video, but for her, that song is proof that she can do it. She can write, record, and release her own material. It shows that a front porch in Hope Hall can be just as powerful as a fancy Nashville writer's room. After high school, Ella does what a lot of kids from small towns do. She goes to college. She's accepted to Troy University and eventually transfers to Auburn University to study forestry. It's a practical, grounded path, something that makes sense on paper. She's going to classes, studying, doing college life. At the same time, she's still singing, still performing, playing covers in bars across Alabama, and working on her own songs. She's living in two worlds, the safe world of a degree and the unpredictable world of music. In 2018, she releases a song called Perfect, one of her early singles. Over time, as her sound and brand sharpen, a lot of that early catalog, including Perfect, quietly disappears from streaming platforms. Some artists prefer to pull those early tracks as they evolve, and Ella is one of them. But those songs and those bar shows are like training sessions. Late nights, tiny rooms, not a lot of money, just reps, repetition, and learning how to hold a room with her voice and her guitar. In 2019, she faces the decision every country artist dreams of and fears at the same time. She moves to Nashville. Leaving Hope Hall means leaving comfort. It means leaving her parents, her siblings, and the familiar world of that Alabama farm for a city full of talent, competition, and uncertainty. Nashville is full of people who can sing, write, and play at a high level. But her parents, Jason and Heather, don't stand in the way. They don't tell her to slow down or play it safe. They back her. They support her decision to go all in on music, even though it means she's hundreds of miles away. In Nashville, Ella throws herself into the grind. She plays writers' rounds, co-writes with other songwriters, and learns how the business side of music really works. She begins to connect with independent country platforms and communities that support up-and-coming artists, building relationships and slowly getting her name out there. This is the era with no big radio hits yet, no major awards, just coffee-fueled writing sessions, small stages, and the constant question in her mind, am I good enough to hang in this town? It's a humbling, critical phase where she develops thick skin and a stronger work ethic. Then the world changes. The COVID-19 pandemic hits, shutting down live music, tours, and venues. For a lot of artists, this could have been the end of the road. For Ella, it becomes an unexpected opportunity. With stages closed, she turns to the digital stage, live streams, and TikTok. From her apartment and her family home, she picks up a guitar, sets up a phone, and starts sharing songs online. She plays originals, tests out new ideas, and interacts directly with fans in the comments. Over time, that effort pays off. She builds a large following, with hundreds of thousands, and eventually over 1 million people following her on TikTok alone. Those fans are not just passive listeners, they're part of the process, reacting in real time, requesting songs, and pushing certain tracks into the spotlight. In 2021, the music industry officially takes note of what she's doing. Ella signs a publishing deal with Sony Music Publishing Nashville. That's a huge step. A publishing deal says, "We believe in you as a writer. We believe in the songs you haven't even written yet." Around this time, she releases songs like If You Have To, which she had already shared pieces of on social media. The fans who watched those early clips now get to hear the fully produced version. It's another example of her turning small, personal moments, like the ones on her porch back home, into songs with a broader reach. In 2023, she releases her debut EP, Excuse the Mess. The title alone is revealing. It's as if she's telling listeners, life is messy, my heart is messy, my story isn't clean, but I'm inviting you in anyway. The EP shows a sound that is firmly rooted in country, but not afraid of rock edges and raw emotion. It's loud when it needs to be, vulnerable when it needs to be, and it feels honest. Critics and fans start to pick up on the idea that she's not a cookie-cutter act. There's bite in her writing, there's humor and attitude, but also a lot of sincerity. You can hear the influence of that tough childhood between two brothers, that bold little girl in church, that determined guitarist working late into the night on her grandpa's instrument. The EP marks the transition from promising newcomer to someone the industry has to take seriously. Then comes the big leap. On August 2nd, 2024, Ella releases her debut full-length album, Hungover. 14 tracks, and she has a hand in writing every single one of them. The record is unapologetic, fun, emotional, sharp. It feels like a diary turned into a soundtrack. Critics at major outlets highlight it as one of the standout country albums of the year. But one song on that album changes her life in a massive way. You Look Like You Love Me, her duet with Riley Green. This track explodes. It races up the charts, hitting #1 on country radio. It becomes her first entry on the Billboard Hot 100 and breaks into the top 30 overall. Streams climb into the hundreds of millions. The song becomes platinum and then multi-platinum. It inspires fan edits, TikTok trends, and steady radio rotation. At the CMA Awards and ACM Awards, You Look Like You Love Me becomes a force. It wins Musical Event of the Year, Music Video of the Year, and major single and song categories. At the ACMs, it also takes Single of the Year, Musical Event, and Visual Media Awards. And Ella herself wins New Female Artist of the Year and stands out as one of the most nominated and most awarded artists of the night. When you see her walk on those stages, holding those trophies, it's hard not to think of the 3-year-old in the church insisting she could handle the microphone on her own. That same confidence, that same I got it energy has carried her all the way from a tiny town in Alabama to the center of country music's biggest nights. Even as her profile explodes, she carries her family with her in a very literal way, through her tattoos. She has ink that honors her parents, her childhood home, and her roots in Alabama. These aren't just aesthetic choices. They're reminders carved into her skin of where she came from and who made her. One of the most personal songs she releases around this era is Closest to Heaven. The song is inspired by one of the final conversations between her grandparents before her grandfather passed away. She wasn't in the room when that conversation happened. She'll never actually know what was said. So she does what songwriters do. She imagines it. She writes the conversation the way her heart thinks it might have gone and turns that imagined moment into a song. It becomes a way for her to process grief and honor their love. Closest to Heaven isn't just a sad ballad. It's a direct line back to that family piano, the guitar her dad gave her, the porch where she started putting melodies and emotions together. It reveals how deeply intertwined her songwriting is with her family history. Her grandparents didn't just give her music, they shaped the way she feels and the way she turns those feelings into lyrics and melodies. You can't tell the story of Ella without spending a moment on Jason and Heather, her parents. They're not celebrities, they're not on stage, but in many ways, they are the quiet heroes of this whole thing. Married since the late 90s, they raised 4 kids on a farm, through ups and downs, always with music present in the background. They encouraged church singing. They didn't stand in the way when she wanted to try dance. They supported talent shows, drove to gigs, and supported her when she wanted to leave a safe college path for a risky music career in Nashville. If you ask Ella about it, she often says that her family always knew this was what she was going to do. They weren't surprised she chased music. To them, it was obvious because they had seen it from the beginning. The church performances, the way she lit up when she sang, the hours alone with that guitar. When she finally started getting those big moments, bar shows turning into tours, indie releases turning into major label projects, local gigs turning into cross-country runs, they were watching. When she won those awards, it wasn't just her victory, it was theirs too. They were in the pews when she grabbed the microphone at 3. They were around the piano at family reunions. They were in the gym at talent shows. They were at home when she came in from late-night bar gigs, tired but wired from performing. They were the first audience that believed in her, long before the industry ever did. Now we get to the full circle moment. After the success of Hungover, the massive run of You Look Like You Love Me, the tours, and the award shows, Ella doesn't just stay gone. She doesn't fully trade hope whole for a lifetime only in big cities. She buys a home back in Alabama, close to her family. It's a place to reset, to breathe, to write, to remember who she is without the stage lights and the cameras. Imagine that. You leave a tiny town to chase a dream in Nashville, You end up with hit records, major awards, and a career that's just getting started, and you choose to plant roots back near the place where it all began. That decision is more than just a real estate move. It's a statement. What she's saying, without needing to put it into words, is this. No matter how big things get, she's still the girl from Hope Hall. The girl who learned her first song on her grandpa's guitar. The girl whose first stage was a church, and whose first major co-writer was her own aunt on a front porch. It's a way of honoring the people and the place that built her while still moving forward into a global career. So, what do we take from Ella Langley's family story? It's not just some generic, small-town girl makes it big cliché. It's more specific than that, and honestly, more useful for anyone watching who has a dream of their own. First, her talent wasn't engineered in a boardroom or assembled by some label committee. It was built in real places, with real people, in a church where she wasn't afraid to take a microphone at 3 years old, in a family where grandparents played instruments by ear, in a house where brothers pushed her and toughened her up, and on a porch where a simple guitar riff turned into a song that showed her she could write her own music. Second, her parents didn't just talk about supporting her dreams, they followed through. They allowed her to move away. They supported her when the path wasn't guaranteed. They didn't shut down her ambition in favor of safety. That kind of backing is priceless, and you can feel it in how grounded she is when she speaks about them. Third, through every phase, family singing, talent shows, early singles, TikToks, EPs, albums, hits, and awards, she has remained a songwriter first. From Clear the Clouds to If You Have To, from Excuse the Mess to Hungover, from You Look Like You Love Me to Closest to Heaven, the thread that connects it all is storytelling rooted in real feelings and real family history. The porch, the church, the farm, the grandparents, the parents, the siblings, they all show up in her songs, one way or another. And finally, even when the world calls her a CMA-winning, chart-topping star, she keeps the title that matters most to her. Daughter, granddaughter, sister, and small-town girl from Hope Hull, Alabama. That's the anchor behind the success. That's the real story behind the headlines and the plaques. Next time you hear Ella Langley on the radio while you're driving, or you see her accepting another award on TV, remember what's behind that moment. Behind the spotlight and the red carpets, there's a small town that rarely gets mentioned. A church where a 3-year-old took the microphone without fear. A grandfather's guitar restrung by a dad who knew exactly what he was doing. A porch where a riff became a song. And a family that made a choice to bet on their daughter's dream. That's how you get from Hope Hall port songs to CMA wins. If you enjoyed going deep into Ella's journey and her family roots, there's even more to explore. Her story is also about how she used TikTok and social media to turn raw, unfiltered performances into a full-blown country radio takeover. It's about how one song, You Look Like You Love Me, was shaped, released, and then adopted by fans in a way that nobody could fully predict. So if you want to keep going and dig into those parts of her journey, the strategy, the songwriting, the behind the scenes of that massive duet, make sure you stick around for the next videos. There's a lot more to say about how Ella Langley went from singing on a porch in Alabama to becoming one of the most exciting names in modern country music.